everyone. My name is David Postalski. I am a partner at Gearhart Law, which is an intellectual property boutique firm in New Jersey. Uh, you're joining us for the Entrepreneurial Strategy Series. It's a virtual event that we put on the last Thursday of every month on issues relating to entrepreneurs. So thank you for joining. We have a great topic tonight, all about software, and so as a patent attorney, I'm constantly, hearing, oh, can we software? Can we patent this? Can we not? Investors say no, yes, whatever it is. It's just a lot to talk about running a software business. And so the three entrepreneurs that we have today have all done that. And so we'll talk about all the issues that kind of go with creating and launching and offering software as a service and a product. So sorry, Oded, please introduce yourself and let me know who you are and where you are.
Thank you, David. Hi, everyone. Oded Omer, right next to Tel Aviv, so not in Tel Aviv, but not far away. Married, plus 3 kids, older ones. Who am I? So initially, I was a musician. Got full scholarship to study music in Berkeley, and then something probably got wrong because I ended up as engineer, electrical engineer. Completed BSc in electrical engineering, and then studied second degree in industrial management engineering. And this is pretty much it. First 10 years of my career is spent in aviation. So to be more specific, runway incursion prevention. So really developing radar software for airports, worked a lot in the States. I am proud to say actually that I visited every single state. No, actually excluding Alaska and Hawaii. Okay, so 48. And then after 10 years, a friend came to me and said, let's establish the first retail tech company in Israel. It was not the first for sure, but we started and we did many mistakes. We will touch that, I guess. We closed it, we sold it, but not something famous, unless you're reading the obituary. I joined another 2 entrepreneurs. We grew up another company. We sold it successfully, and now I am in this one. So Wasteless, and what we do in Wasteless, we use smart pricing, the simplified version, right, David? So we use smart pricing to reduce food waste. Okay, and we will speak about that. But the basic idea is so simple. Well, basically, David and I, we get into Albertson's store as an example, and we should not necessarily pay the same price for a Chobani or packet of minced beef that expires in 2 days or 5 days. Okay, and this is Wasteless, and Wasteless is very active in the States now.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, we'll hear more about it. I think people might have questions exactly what that means, but we'll move to Stefania to introduce herself. Tell us a little bit about who you are and where you are.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to share my journey with you. I'm Stefania, CEO and founder of Vices. I am Italian, but I started this company in Boston because I understood from day one that it's not just about having an idea, it's also about having the support of an ecosystem that can help you move forward and faster. You guys hear me well?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're breaking up a little bit, but I think you're good now.
Okay. I apologize. I've been having Wi-Fi issues this week. I started Vices with the idea of bringing a new level of transparency into the financial industry. And I tell you how it all started. I was a fund manager. I was the youngest impact investing fund manager in Europe. I managed a fund of around 100 million. And I wanted to invest the money in a way that was making financial return, but also a positive impact. But I didn't have access to enough sustainability data or data that would enable me to answer a simple question. Did Nike generate a better impact than Adidas? Did they create more jobs? Did they reduce CO2 emission? Did they recycle or generated more plastic than Adidas? I didn't have access to this information, but to me, they were absolutely key in order to move money towards sustainable companies and projects. After being a fund manager, I became an advisor to over 90 billion of assets. That's a lot of money. And I was very lucky to have that job, but yet I came across the same challenge. I didn't have enough information, objective information, to really make an assessment and invest, hoping to generate an impact. So I started thinking if I could build a solution to enable investors to really understand that when they invest, there is much more than just financial performance. And this is how FISIS started. FISIS is a software company. We provide sustainability data and information to investors so they can make informed decisions. And hopefully, as we move money toward companies and projects that protect the planet, we will build a better world together.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you, Stefania. We'll hear more from you later, but thank you for the intro. And did you say where you're calling from? Did you let everybody know where you are?
Okay, I am in Sardinia, so this is my week of vacation. I am in Sardinia, and that's why sometimes the Wi-Fi may not be that great, and I really apologize.
We totally understand, and awesome. Thank you for joining us while you're in Sardinia. Last but not least, our third speaker is Nathan Gamble. Please introduce yourself.
Fantastic. Thank you, David, and thank you, everybody, for joining. It's so nice to meet everybody. So my name is Nathan Gampel, and I am the CEO of a company called Transformation Insights, which is a digital transformation technology company. So many people out there may or may not be familiar with digital transformation, but basically what it means is anytime a company is engaged in a large change project, right? Many people don't realize when they look at companies, they think the most expensive, the biggest expense is people, or the biggest expense is a building or something else. What people don't really realize is that the biggest expense that a company has is actually the projects that they invest in, right? The project might be a merger and acquisition. The project might be hiring people. It might be downsizing, implementing a new technology. Companies are really just a collection of projects. And today, managing this collection of projects when technology is involved is growing to over $3 trillion a year, growing at over 20% a year. And there's no shortage of solutions, but the solutions are all people-based, right? If I have to do a merger and acquisition, I have to hire a consultancy, a lawyer, a banker, a this, that, and the other. And there really is no way to manage that entire process, if you will, or that entire event from start to finish. So enter Transformation Insights, which offers what's known as the first transformation management platform. And so we'll talk about this soon, but at its core is a being known as Razi. And Razi is the first cybernetic intelligence for change. And so right now we're using this technology with large companies. We met some people in the networking portion who are doctors who are looking to set up networks, let's say, of physicians. And so that's actually one of the use cases, if you will, or similar to one of the use cases that we're working with now, whereby, instead of having to set up a network, hire all these people, do these things, wouldn't it be great if out of the box you had a private assistant named Razi that you could say, hey, Razi, I want to stand up a new doctor's office, or hey, Razi, I want to implement this new standard. Now that we've acquired this company, we want to have them work on our standard. That's what this technology does. And as it grows and as it improves, our vision is to see it move from this corporate product into something that we'll use every day, whether it's quitting smoking or my personal projects or my personal passions around global education, and making education and making skill sets more accessible around the world, regardless of background. And with a technology like KTA, it's really amazing. We're getting into everything from virtual reality and decision making to, like I said, our core bread and butter now, which is really big data and helping companies make better decisions as they go through this change. So I guess in my opening remark, where I'll close with, maybe this is a good segue back to David about the topic of today's show. Imagine what I just said trying to explain this 2 years ago to somebody. It was impossible. And
Mm.
the patent process, to be quite frank, it's a process. There's no question. It costs money. It's difficult, whatever. But the patent process was an integral part of our journey, because it went from some crazy idea in my basement. Everyone looked at me like I had four heads on, to, my friend now, David, who actually believed in me, edited my first book, and, worked with me to get 2 patents, 30 US patent claims, global patent pending status elsewhere, and yada, yada, yada. And that journey of going from a big idea to something that's tangible and delivers value every day is rewarding, complicated, but also profound, and a big part of how we got to where we are. So I'm really glad to be here, really excited to share my story, share our story. And David, back to you.
Well, actually, let's stick on you for a little bit, Nathan.
Uh-oh.
That was actually a good segue, because I think I mean, I hear it. I'm not even joking, people. I probably hear it at least 5 to 10 times a week. Should I, like, why should I get, like I have a software solution, why should I get a patent on it? There's just a lot of noise kind of out there. So maybe you can talk about kind of like, what was your inclination? I think this is a question for all of you, but we'll start with Nathan. Why patent? Why did you decide to patent and not to patent, right? So I'm just curious kind of how that kind of broke down in your head, just as a founder.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic question. And, it's interesting. I don't want to misquote him, but I think, there was like a story that, Elon Musk came out and said, don't get patents. They're a big waste of money and whatever. It's the most ridiculous thing. And here's why. Number one, getting a patent is just common sense. To get a provisional patent on an idea that you think could be, whether it's $1 million or $1 billion idea, or frankly, something that you just believe in super passionately and you really care about, to get a provisional patent, especially with someone like David, it's really easy. It doesn't take long to write an idea, and you have a different level of protection, right? And so the why patent to me is more why not, right? Because to just start and to just, if you have an idea, that first step is actually fairly easy. And to be honest with you, it's very symbolic. So a little bit about my background. I'm an organization psychologist, right? So I think a lot about things like why people do stuff the way they do from a business perspective, right? I'm also an amateur behavioral economist, right? And so I like to look at that decision making, but also look at it from a bounded rationality, or what do I understand? What do I think? And what's motivating me to make a decision? There are certain things that we do when we transact business that seem small, but they're actually huge. Like, for example, when we're booking a vacation, we might swipe our card and no one might take the money from the card, but by virtue of swiping that card, you're locked in. It's making a decision. That would be my second reason for why a patent, right? The first reason is why not. It's if you know what you're doing, it's easy. And if you care about an idea, it doesn't cost a lot and it establishes the protection. But the second reason for why a patent is because it means that you're serious, right? It means you're really gonna think this through. It means you're not just bringing some silly idea that, hey, you're playing around. No, it means you're taking an idea seriously, and people are going to take you seriously as a result of that. And for me, that's the why the patent. I won't share too much of my story now, because I want to definitely give other folks a chance to talk too. But obviously, I'm not so young anymore, and I got to tell you, becoming an entrepreneur took me many, many years to finally get there. And when I got let go from a project, and I told my wife 2 weeks earlier that I was going to get let go because I said there's something wrong with how they're speaking, my wife said, you need to follow it. And one of the first things I did was put that patent application or provisional application together, and it like changed something in me. I started talking about it, and people would look at me like, what do you mean a personal assistant for change, a cybernetic organism? But it forced me. And then David said something brilliant. Nathan, I don't care what you do as long as there's technology in the middle. And that changed something in me, because I started getting deep in tech. I have no tech background. And I started to learn, and I started to watch YouTube, and I started to teach myself physics and computer science, and it just changed my life. And so the reason why I got a patent was because why not? But also because it's a step, right? It's an important psychological step that says, I'm serious about this idea, and people should take me seriously too.
Love that. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Stefania.
Yeah.
Why? What was the inclination for your company to do this? Or not?
I have to admit, in the beginning, I was like, okay, let's do the patent. I didn't really understand the power of a patent. I was totally underestimating how things would have changed once I would get a patent, or just telling people, hey, we filed for a patent. So I was mostly moved into this direction from having conversation with VC and asking me if we have filed for a patent for our technology. So I was like, okay, maybe this is something that investors want to see. But then in the process of writing the patent, I have really realized how even just the process itself was so helpful to me and my team. Number one, I mean, David has been amazing. It was our first filing. We really didn't know what to do, how to do it. It was all a mess. And he was so patient with us. I don't really know how you manage, but thank you so much. We and literally in that moment we realized that we didn't have enough good documentation about what we have developed. Like literally just getting into the process of starting writing down in a really professional, clear and also concise way to what you have developed, it's absolutely key for your company. And we really couldn't understand that up to when we started creating the documentation for the patent. Second things that we also came across was, okay, when you develop, you add the piece, then the next 2 weeks you work on another piece, and then you have something that works. Because we by then had a decent MVP, but you don't really realize everything that you built up to when you have everything in the patent. So you really feel that level of empowerment as a team, thinking, oh my God, we really got something here. Oh my God, it's not just about the appreciation of clients, it's also about the technology itself that we have developed together piece by piece over the last couple of years. So that really was another really key learning in the process of the patent. And then the third things happened when I started just adding a little note on my technology slide on the pitch, patent pending, okay, and then patent received. VC, but also clients start looking at you with a totally different level of respect. They take you serious, way more serious. They understand that you have something of value. And all the questions an investor asks you about how you protect yourself, how other people cannot copy what you're doing, almost go away the moment you say you have the patent. So I honestly highly recommend, even if you're not convinced as we're not, just go for it, for real. Go for it. You will see the benefit as you file the patent, and you will see it right after you have the patent.
Amazing, Stefania. Thank you for sharing that. Now, Oded is a little bit of a different story. Oded holds something like 65 patents, and so he can write
64,
them,
64.
64. He can probably write them better than me, but maybe Oded, you can share a little bit about your kind of love affair with patents and how how it all translated to your current company, Wasteless.
Yes. So first I will say that I'm not going to write any of those anymore because David told me, don't do that. You are creating mess that I have to fix, which is completely correct. Okay. So usually when I start 1 o'clock in the morning with the crazy idea and then I write it and I send it to David, and then 7 o'clock in the morning, he answered, did you file? Of course I did. Don't ever do that. Okay, anyway. So there is this book, you probably know this book, and if not, I totally recommend The 7 Habits of Extremely Successful. That's a very old book from 1920, I believe. Okay, and one of the advice there is start with the end of mind, with the end in mind. Okay, and that means you should really, before you start your company, before you start your entrepreneurial journey, you should ask yourself, what do I want? Do I want to change, big world? Do I want to change the world? Do I want to do something that is good for the environment? Do I just want to get money? Do I want to get influence? Do I want to whatever, get respect or whatever? Okay, now, assuming you build a company and eventually you want to sell it, okay, then IP will be a very good idea, okay? Because as Stefania said, and also very inspiring story by Nathan, okay? Investors, they look different at you, okay? So when I have to really look at three parts, why should you go with patent? I will say the first word is scenery, and I will elaborate on that. Then the second word will be actually not word, abbreviation, so FFF, 3F. And then the third will be protection, not to get sued by someone, okay? And let's start elaborate on that, it will be short. Okay, so scenery, okay? You build the scenery, you have an idea, your idea is to create whatever, these, right? Sticky notes, nothing, just, you know, piece of paper with stick, 3M by the way. Anyway, you have this idea and you want to create the scenery of a very successful company, wannabe company, okay? Very serious entrepreneur. You filed a patent for the stick and for the paper and for whatever, okay? So that's first. It sets the scenery, the landscape, as Stefania said, and people will look different at you. Then you take this scenery and you pitch it alongside your PowerPoint. Remember, you don't yet have technology, you don't have MVP, you have only piece of paper, 9 pages provisional, maybe not even a full patent, maybe provisional patent. You pitch it to investors, and then comes the FFF. Usually, you're not starting with VC. You start with friends, family, and fools. And hopefully, you will be able to collect everyone into the first, I don't know, $1 million, okay? Then there is the incentive to get better, to be better, not to get better, to be better, and not to get sued. When you are filing the first provisional, you do a patent search. And the patent search usually includes prior art, which we hate, right, David? Because we delve into the details and then we think, okay, was it done yet? Should we circumvent somehow or should we not? But anyway, the moment you have it, and regardless if you will get the patent or not, okay? Well, that's not 100% correct, but you can elaborate on that, David. The moment you got the patent or you got the provisional, at least no one will be able to sue you. They will be able to sue you, but they will never win because you have the patent. Okay, so those are the 3 silos for me when I go and file patents.
Got it. And can you talk just a little bit? I'll stay on you a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about, like, because I think it's important that we have developers that are listening. They're even on the call now.
Yeah.
But for some of you are not developers, and so can you talk a little bit about, like, okay, so what's next? You know, okay, I filed my provisional. You know, I possibly have something novel. I did a patent search. I got to build this. So, like, what do I do next? Like, what's the next step? What do you do? What did you do, Oded?
Okay, so in our case, we came from a company that had dynamic pricing, kind of very simple decision tree, and we started with, and I believe also Peter Thiel wrote it in his book 0 to 1, that a great company starts with what if in mind and with a secret to be revealed, right? And our secret was, and the what if was, what if we could harness the power of dynamic pricing in order to reduce food waste, okay? And then we started to research, and as entrepreneurs, and I guess we will speak about that, and Stefania and Nathan, for sure, they can elaborate on that. You must train yourself for a lifetime of no's, okay? But in our case, the first no was from MIT professor in Boston that said, you can't do that, I think, because if you do linear pricing, okay, the retailer will be bleeding money. Okay, so it is not realistic. It is not that you can reduce the price. It will be a specific price for 5 days expiry date, and then 4 days, and then 3 days, and then the last day. No, you can't do that. And we had to come with a reinforcement learning, which is a branch of AI. Nowadays, everyone is saying AI. Part of the people that are saying AI, they cannot even spell A and I. And so we just use reinforcement learning and AutoML in our core algorithms. And what we do, we built a system that tells the retailer what to discount, when to discount, by how much and how often. So multi-period system. And to answer your initial question, I believe that filing the patent should be, this is not how we did it, but it should be alongside the MVP development. Okay? And again, I will go to book, Eric Ries. If you are ashamed enough in what you build as an MVP, you will be successful. Okay? So build MVP, minimum viable product, whatever the product is. It can be software, it can be not software, it can be hardware, it can be general use. Build your MVP, go to the market. Before you go to the market, before you meet investor, file at least provisional patent. I recommend, by the way, filing provisional patent and not waiting the 12 eligible months, not wait for the year to end, and file immediately after the provisional, file a continuation, so full application.
Okay, Stefania, thank you, Odette. Stefania, so you were not a programmer, you were an investment fund manager. So how did you build your software? What'd you do? Where do you go?
Well, so I soon realized that I need to work with somebody who knew how to code. And so literally the moment I incorporated the company, the week after, I started looking for somebody who would help build the company with me. Because even if I had in mind exactly what I wanted to do, I didn't know how to do it. And so I started looking for a co-founder or just another senior team member that could join me. And I was very lucky because I came across Louise, who was coming from an exit from another software company. She had over 10 years of experience developing software in the startup world. And so there was a really good match. And so Louise and I started working on this company together. Of course, it comes, as everybody knows here, if you are an entrepreneur, you need to learn everything. Doesn't mean that you're going to become somebody that really codes, but you need to be able enough to understand code and to understand the work of other people. So I've learned a lot of things myself, literally teaching myself how to code, at least how to review codes. I also wrote a couple of algorithms by now, but mostly it was me with Louise creating everything. So my advice in general, but you guys already know, as an entrepreneur, you need to know a little bit of everything. You need to know from taxes to coding to leadership. Then as the more you grow with the company, the more, you will be able to hire people that will take care of single component of the business. I am now mostly focusing on marketing, sales, and everything that's company operation. And Louise managed my team of developers. We now have 8 developers.
Got it. And are your developers like onshore, offshore? Like, how did that factor into your decisions?
That's a great question. In the beginning, we bootstrap, and so we really didn't have money in Boston because the company is based in Boston. A senior developer is $200K per year.
Wow.
Absolutely didn't have that money. So Louise, she lives in the US, but she's from Venezuela, and she said, what if we hire a team of people in Venezuela? We will pay them literally 20% of what you pay a developer in the US, and those people will be very talented. They will stick with the company, because you also, as a startup, have another problem. People quite often leave you, even if you will pay them, to go to work at Google or Amazon or other big companies. Especially in Boston, you have this challenge. And so I said, okay, that's a good idea. And she also wanted to give back to her community. She said, I'm lucky. I was able to come to the US to study here, to marry here, but there are people there that couldn't really escape the country. And so we managed to build a team there. And it's great because it's also in the same time zone of Boston, sometimes an hour of difference, but anyway, same time zone. And that's how we started. And then now we have a couple of developers, two developers in Boston. But we started with developers in Venezuela.
Love that. Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that.
And
Nathan,
sorry, just to say, this is
yeah,
also,
please.
guys, if you don't have enough money in the beginning, by the way, even now I'm always short with money. Like it's a problem of running a startup.
We all are.
Yeah,
Everybody.
right. We can all raise the hand. Don't get discouraged. You will always find talented people either in the US or outside the US that will want to work for the goal of the company, for the mission. So it's just maybe a little harder to find, but don't get discouraged.
I love that, Stefania. Thank you for sharing that. That's important. I think an important concept is that there are people out there that can share in your same passion, that all of you clearly have, and so it's just finding those right people. It may take a little bit, may take, you might kiss a few frogs, but eventually you hopefully you'll put together a good team. Nathan, you also had no computer science background, so how did you build Razi? Like how's that working out?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny when David asked me to, do this podcast today. I was obviously interested to do it. I'm always interested to meet new people, but it's really great for me. It's therapeutic, actually, cathartic to hear other founders in the same situation, because it's like, being an entrepreneur is the loneliest job, right? Everybody's looking at you, everyone's around you, and you're trying to get everybody around you to pay attention. And it's a back and forth. And so it's amazing how, again, founder rationality, right? We believe in our own little worlds, but the reality is that we're all, everybody's kind of running in the same race, trying to do the same thing. And it's really amazing to hear it as well. So my story is a little bit different. So I wasn't able to really read until the age of 17. I had a learning disability, and I graduated high school with a 67 GPA. I was lucky to graduate, and I basically started college and worked my butt off at night. I worked during the day, went to school at night, and I just fought every step of the way. And the reality came about 5, 6 years ago. I had left working at the Big Four, and I was starting to work in my own consultancy. And if you've ever tried to do a consulting practice, it's extremely hard to get clients, extremely hard to show value, extremely hard to maintain longevity with a client. And something happened one day. I was working on a project. It was a $100 million project, and they had a Big Four consultancy in. They were paying like $200,000 a month in project management and whatever, and it just wasn't going anywhere. And I got a job, and I just did, I got the job as a consultant, and we ended up doing the project for 1/10 the price using my system at the time. Today, this person is the global CEO of one of the largest insurance companies in the world, right? I think that's the answer to your question of what I did next. It was basically when, entrepreneurship, at least for me, doing it these last several years, it's a passion, right? You have to be passionate about it, and you have to be passionate in a way that you just can't stop and you become obsessed. And so what happened was I became obsessed. Like, on the one hand, I had this great thing, but on the other hand, it was like, how could I ever be a consultant again? Because now that I know this, that I can do this technologically, how could I build time and materials and keep, it was like very hard. And so this crazy dichotomy in my head of what I need to do, what I want to do, what I should do, whatever, it just drove me. And it was like, I don't know what to do next. And I was lost, to be honest with you. And then the answer came from the most likely people. As I like to write about in my books, if you surround yourself with good people, good things tend to happen. And in my case, it was my wife and my dad. And my dad in particular is a harsh New Yorker. And I was whining to him about 5, 6 years ago. And my dad did what he always did. He said, shut up, write it down. And he hung up. And The last time my dad did that to me was when I was 19. I got married. I was getting married and I had no money and I had no job. And I said to my dad, help me, I have no money. And he goes, did you knock on every door on your block? I was in New York. I said, no. He goes, shut up. And he hung up on me. So for some reason, my dad, being harsh with me seemed to have worked. But that really was how I was able to do it, David. It was just, I became so obsessed and passionate about an idea and I saw it working. And one success led to another success. But it was really when my dad told me just write it down that everything changed. Because when I started to write it down, just like I said earlier on with just authoring the patent, just by getting started, you just start speaking to people differently. You start speaking about yourself differently. You start speaking to other people differently. And if you're someone like me, who comes from this background, you don't like to be told you're stupid. You don't like to be laughed at, that your idea is cockamamie. So every time someone said no, and every time someone slammed the door in my face, I said, why? Right? And I was receptive to the feedback. And if it was because I didn't understand the neural network, I got a documentary and I taught myself. If it was that I didn't understand blockchain, it's because I taught myself. If I didn't understand quantum computing, I taught myself, right? And the reality is, it's not that I'm smart. It's just YouTube makes it possible. And the reality is that if you have drive and determination, you have passion, and you have a willingness to follow it, honestly, I think there's really no excuse for not being able to do whatever it is that you want to do, because everything can be learned. There are wonderful people out there who will gossip and schmooze. And even if they slam the door in your face, the slam the door in your face is a learning. And so for me, it was about having that passion, being receptive, and just frankly doing it, and doing it relentlessly, and learning and doing and getting better. Eventually what happens is you start getting one success, then two successes, then the PCT, the global patent trade, the global patent a treaty that represents 160 companies one day out of nowhere sends you a document that says, your claims have utility. Then you get patents, then you write a book. Then it doesn't even have to be in that way. It could be your own way. Maybe you make your first sale, maybe you hire your first employee. But what I find happens is, just by starting and by being passionate, by listening and being receptive to feedback and adjusting courses and not being afraid to continue working, that's my answer. There is no answer. You just have to fight for it. But if you fight for it and you believe in it and your idea is good, generally, and you surround yourself with good people, which I think are the themes you're hearing today, generally things tend to work out and you get where you're needing to go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Stefania, you brought up something I think we need to talk about: money, right? Nobody has money. Everybody's raising money. Everybody's talking to investors, friends, and family. Maybe you could talk a little bit about your journey with kind of raising money, and how the fact that you had a soft, because that's a big thing. Like you hear it a lot. Oh, some investors hate patents in software. Some just want you to have users, like just your overall kind of experience. This is to all of you after, but Stefania first, what's your what's been your experience with kind of, just raising money, period,
Everyone, literally everyone you will talk to will have an opinion. And it will be about the way you pitch, even about the pitch itself, how much you should raise, how much you should not raise. Like, it is crazy how everybody you will encounter will have an opinion. So probably the first thing is, you need to have an idea of what you really want to do, and also what type of story and how you want to tell your story. And you can get feedback from people, great, but then once you find your way, just go with your way. So if you want to bootstrap up to when you have users, do that. If you want to raise right away and give away a lot of equity, do that. I mean, you as a funder probably have a co-founder. You need to figuring out what is the best solution that will work for you. Once you have done that, then be prepared for a lot of no. Absolutely. Like, everybody is, and quite often even an investor that will later invest, in the beginning they will say no. They will say no either because the number one reason might be they don't even understand completely what you're doing. And it's not due to the fact that you don't explain it well, it's that they come from different backgrounds, so they might not be the right investor. And in the early days, having an investor that understand what you do and understand your vision, it's key, because they can also help you and guide you and give you proper feedback. But anyway, You will get a lot of no. You will get no from people that don't fully get what you do. Then you will start getting some yes. Let's say that you have decided to raise, because that's the process, a small round, a pre-seed. Amazing. Raise what you need to get you to the next level. Never over raise. You are constantly raising. Even when I am not accepting money, I am raising. I'm talking to people. I'm getting my network extended. I'm preparing investor for the next round. So you should always be in the fundraising mood. Every time you talk to somebody, and you really never know who will invest in you. Just because they say they're an angel investor doesn't mean they will invest. And maybe you will meet somebody who will be an angel investor for the first time. Forget angels. You are ready to do a seed round. You will go to VC. Things has literally changed so much recently. Also after the SVB crash, the market has not been great over the last year. So VC will require more traction. I will recommend extend your pre-seed instead of going to VC, because some VC right now for a seed round are really asking too much from companies. VC is a totally different fundraising mode. You need to be more prepared. You need to have more documentation. And most importantly, you need to build some level of momentum. So if you can build relationship. So start building relationship. And then when you feel it's the right time, bring all the VC back into a meeting for maximum range time of 2 weeks and say, I'm raising, this is my seed. This is when I'm going to be done. Build some level of momentum. That's how they best react and take you seriously. Otherwise, they will think, oh, why should I invest now? Even if they potentially want to invest in you. Personally, I also want to add, you will have really bad days. It can happen that you have been talking to 5 VC or 5 angels and they all say no. Cry if you want to cry. Express your emotion. Get upset, go for a run, it's fine. To be sad, to feel disappointed, it's great in the sense that it will enable you to understand if there is something you need to improve on, or it will just make you feel maybe I'm getting into a totally wrong direction. Maybe I'm not ready for a seed round right now if I'm getting all of this now. So there's always space for understanding how and why the market is reacting to what you're doing. But just don't be afraid to be sad or to feel disappointed. The only thing I want to ask you, never feel discouraged. That's the feeling. Don't feel discouraged because you get no. Don't feel discouraged because you are running out of money. That's the only thing you should really never feel. As for my personal story, I bootstrap, then I raise a small safe with angels in Boston area, a few in New York, that I built relationship for over 2 years. So that when I felt the moment was right, I spoke to them and they were all engaged already with the company. They have already seen me facing challenges and that they were ready to invest, okay? I wanted to raise a seed round last year in May after the SVB crash, and it was impossible for us to really get VC in the meeting. It was, and we already had revenue. Like we had what it was okay to have for a seed round. It just was crazy. And so I personally took the decision along with my board to, as we had run away, to continue with limited resources, what I call survival money, and not raise, because the market condition was just not great. I personally was an SVB company, so in a matter of a few days, we didn't even have access to our bank account. And that was a really, I know this is a long response, but, and that was a really tough moment for me and for the company, because all of a sudden I didn't even know if I could pay payroll at the end of the year, at the end of the month. And I was like, okay, all our hope, all our work is what's gonna be just done. But then thank God we know what happened, so things got a little better. If you can survive with little money in the beginning, that's great, because it will enable you to have longer runaway, but also have more flexibility in case something like SVB will ever happen. Because my plan, if I couldn't have access to my bank account, the company bank account would have been to raise a little from our current angels or other angels I was talking to just survive for a couple of months and then potentially try to raise more. But I could do plan B because our runaway, it's very low.
Wow, Stefania, thank you so much. I didn't even know half of that. Wow, that's truly inspiring. Thank you for sharing that. For all of you who don't know,
definitely.
I know this is taking a lot, but can I also add something as a woman?
Course, please.
So as a woman, if you are a woman, I never felt not empowered. Every time I had a meeting with a VC, I never felt I missed out on anything for being a woman. So don't have ever that feeling. Although we have to be honest, only 2% of VC money go to female funded company. And this is number one, totally unfair. And number two, something that we all need to try to change, especially for the future generation of funders.
Completely.
Yeah,
Yes.
amen to that for sure, 100%. Yes, bravo to you. And that's kind of why I wanted you on this panel, because I knew that you could represent that point of view, which I think is really important. For those of you who don't know, the SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, that's what Stefania was talking about. That whole scandal and kind of breakdown where thousands of companies couldn't access their money, and Stefania was one of them. Oded, you have had you've been at this a long time with Wasteless.
Yeah.
How old is the company now?
The company is 6.5 years, but I raised money already in 1998 for internet gaming. Can you believe? Once if you had the .com suffix, you could raise money. But anyway, I first I would like to say that I agree like 1000% with all the things that Stefania said. Building momentum and the safe and the portions and how to do it and when to do that. I want to say something. In fundraising, okay, we are not playing backgammon. Okay, we are playing, listen very well, we are playing multi-dimensional chess with a pair of dice. Okay, and let me give you two stories that will show you how correct this statement is, and why entrepreneurs have generally only two states: mania, depressia, and euphoria. Okay, and I can elaborate on that with two stories. So first, when Wasteless raised the pre-seed money, we had investor that he went into due diligence and he completed due diligence, and we had the term sheet and the definitive agreement, and everything was in place, and he was released from the army, but he was like military champion, like really very arrogant and full of himself and whatever. And this guy prepared everything. And we had lawyer, the same lawyer that you know, right? And this lawyer has someone there intern that worked for him, and this guy was very, very smart. But guess what? The very same morning of the signature of signing the definitive agreement, this guy had to go to a surgery, knee surgery. It happens, okay? Now, our lawyers, they took the agreement. It was all redlined. They just selected all, accept all changes. Okay, you see where it goes. Okay, the next thing I got was a very angry call that this guy doesn't want to speak with us ever again, that Wasteless is fraud, and we took 1.5% future options from him if he will bring a client. Now, down into this journey, I can tell you that this guy could never bring clients, okay? Not in Germany, not in Belgium, not elsewhere, okay? But we ran out of money, and we had definitive agreement that was pretty much dead. So what can you do? You need to maneuver. to walk between the raindrops and eventually to make it happen with smaller amount of money, with safe, as Stefania said already, and this is the way it is. So even when you have investors and you have lead investor, and the lead investor is saying, yeah, I want to do that, then until you see the money in the bank, not SVB, Stefania. Okay, I used to have account there as well. Until the money is not there, the money is not there. Okay, second story, which is shorter. One of the biggest company ever sold from Israel was what, I'm not going to share the name, but in their Series A, they raised $80 million. The main investor died, passed away 3 days before signing. So, that's a roller coaster, and you are always raising money. So fundraising mode, as you said, you must enjoy the process. And if you cannot enjoy the process, you need to bring someone that will be with you, that will enjoy the process. And if you need to learn something, you need to learn how to do it. And again, as Stefania said, you will hear many voices. Okay, voices in your head, but mostly you will hear voices outside your head. Your pitch is not good, the font is not good, the colors. I've seen so many pitch decks. This one is good, this one is better, yours is not professional, whatever. The deck is okay. The deck usually converts from the first meeting to the second meeting. The problem is after the second meeting, okay? And the voices, just shut them off. And if you cannot do it by yourself, bring outside consultant. We literally took, Yossi, my partner, and myself, we literally took one guy who was my boss 20 years ago, entrepreneur, very good one. You know him, right? Alon, David, you know Alon very well.
Did OJ freeze for everybody?
Okay, because you learn every day.
Yeah, OJ, you froze up on the last few seconds of what you were saying.
Okay.
But thank you for sharing. I think we got it. Nathan, you're also a bootstrapper to begin with.
Yeah, that's right. We've actually raised a fair amount of money over the last several months. And we're starting to flirt again with the VC space, and so it's because it used to be when I was.
Nathan, you put yourself on mute by accident.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, go for it.
Hey, sorry about that. What I was saying was, from a raising money perspective, the world has definitely matured. When I was younger, if you had a startup business, as Oded said, and you had a .com, you went to the VC and you made a business case, you raised money, and you would go, right? The world is much more sophisticated, especially with the internet. There are angels that are more accessible. There are investment clubs. There's all kinds of people. And what has happened is, as Stefania correctly said, it's like the VCs are almost operating these days more like private equity companies. It's almost like they want to, whoops.
What happened?
I'm back. Can you guys hear me? It just dropped randomly.
We hear you. David, you are on mute, David.
Sorry, we didn't lose you at all, your video, but your sound, I guess, cut out.
Oh, no, the whole thing shut off. I'm sorry about that. Okay. I'll just get to the point really quick because I know we're running short on time. But as Stefania said, the VCs these days are operating almost like private equity companies where they want to see all kinds of revenue. And, my response is, at least when I was starting out, it's like, this doesn't make any sense. So what you're saying is, I can't get funding unless I have clients and revenue, but I can't get revenue unless I have a product, but I can't build a product unless I have money. And I can't get, it was like this never ending silliness cycle is what I've found. And so to answer your question, what I learned about fundraising is I think a lot of what's been said is kind of right, but I think my little 2 cents to add is, number one, you got to remember that the person on the other side is a person, right? What they're after is they want to make a return on their investment. And, when I started my career, I didn't know anything. I just, applied to every job I could find, sent out a deck to wherever I could go because my rationale was, hey, touch as many people as you can, and eventually, you'll find someone. And that's not really how this works. The way, if you really are serious about fundraising, take the time to research the person, go on LinkedIn, go to their VC website, read their blogs. I mean, these guys are pretty serious about their professions, the way that we're serious about our entrepreneurial journey. And so, like for me, for example, even though my idea sounds esoteric, what I learned is that it actually fits neatly within an area called future of work. And it turns out that there are loads of VCs, angels, investors, et cetera, who are into future of work. And it just so happens that when you talk their language, they talk back. And so even though you may get a no, there's a no, I don't understand you, leave me alone. But there's a no, hey, not right now, but I understood what you said. And even though a no is still a no, that in of itself is very encouraging. So I'd say my first add to the commentary is take the time, remember it's a relationship, and take the time, to learn the people as well. The other thing I would say is, and I think you heard this a little bit as well, but raising money is a strategic thing, right? In other words, if the only reason you're raising money is because you're going bankrupt and you need money, then to me, that's not a reason to raise money, right? I mean, it means you don't have a product, right? And the truth is, that was my experience, right? Once I had a product, there was no issue selling it. In fact, we have too much sales now, right? And it's funny because even now, like every day, like we're finding, we went from nobody returning our call 2 months ago to launching a product. And, every day now we're having calls and the VC still won't talk to us. And you know what? To Stefania's point, I don't even care, because we've learned how to be so lean and so efficient that when the VC tells us no, we just find something else. And for us, our product's a little bit different, but just to share a little personal story, and I'll turn it back to David, is for us, given that we have this product that acts as like this artificial intelligence, partner for change, it's very amenable. And once it learns a situation, it can help replicate. And for us, that aha moment came from a random conversation I had with a surgeon. And the surgeon was talking about revenue cycle management and how big a pain it is to manage denials, right? When you submit a bill and that bill is denied. Well, guess what? If you have an out-of-the-box partner who can help manage that and help you work with your people, it becomes very simple. And that just made us go like this. And that got us tons of investors and people who are interested, and angels calling us and all this other stuff. And everyone is right. You're always looking for money. It's never enough. You never have enough. You always want to do the next big thing. But what I have found, at least personally, is fundraising has to be a strategy. You have to have a strategy for why you want the money and what you want to do with it and how it's accretive to your business. If you just want money to survive, you're going to waste your time, run out of money, and upset a lot of people. But if you're like, no, I want the money because if I take the money right now, I'm experiencing a growth spurt, and that growth spurt is going to get supercharged, then it's a good relationship all around. And so that's really my second advice. My second advice is, it's true what they say. It's called use of funds, if you're not familiar with that term. How are you going to use the money, right? A year ago, I would have said, I know how to use the money, and I would have given you a laundry list. That's not an answer. You ask me today, how am I going to use the money? I'm going to advance to Razi 2.0. I'm going to expand my sales team, and I'm going to grow in healthcare, right? When you can be really specific like that for the why, again, I'm nobody, right? I'm new at this myself. I'm just some guy. But I have found that when you treat people like people, and you have a product that makes sense, it starts to make sense for others. I'm a big believer that the world tends to right itself. And at least in our case, that's kind of how our story has been.
Awesome. Oh, did you want to comment on any of that?
No, I just fully agree. They call it use of fund, use of proceeds, and then assuming you have a P&L or any kind of cash flow and plan and development plan and whatever, then you can literally say, how are you going to use the money? In our case, this is even worse, okay, because we are supported by the innovation authorities of Israel. They supported us 3 times. Now we submitted for the last time, and they require it. So you have a plan, and they know more or less what are you going to do every single week. Every single week for 1 year long, okay? And in the current grant, they require a monthly plan for 3 years, which is impossible, of course. Who knows what will be here in, I mean, what is going to be in August?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
May I add, David?
Yes, please.
Okay. Number one, Absolutely be honest and transparent with your investor. Where you stand today, what you have, what you don't have, what you're missing. Step 2, use of proceed or use of funding. With 500K, this is what I'm gonna do, and be as specific as you can be. I'm gonna hire one salesperson. I'm gonna go from, I don't know, 10 companies that we cover to 15 companies or 20. So try to be very specific. You don't have to always meet your goals. People know the things will change, but they want to know that you have an idea, you have a plan, and you have goals that you are trying to move forward. That's why sometimes they ask you, what do you see, where do you see the company in 3 years? Okay. So it is important that you have it in your head. But
Yeah.
also, I need to say, not every company or every business needs to raise millions of dollars from VC. So sometimes we think that we really need so much money to really develop something. In reality, sometimes you don't. Or don't just chase money, chase business. This is key. Like, maybe if I have to say something about myself, I have been trying to chase clients way more than business, even when the product was not great, even when I know we had bugs. You give people a discount. You tell them you are just in the beginning of your development. It is better to focus on traction and build that traction and keep evolving the product based on clients' feedback than spending 6 months trying to chase VC that might give you a no for who knows what reasons.
Yeah.
And this goes
Yes.
back to what Nathan also was saying. If you have a good idea and then you've been able somehow to develop that idea into a minimum MVP, into a decent level of product, depending on the stage, then you will grow.
Yeah.
And
Well,
and
go for it.
$1 from a client, it is $20 from investor.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. 2 more things.
Please.
Do due diligence on investors. Don't take money from whoever. They will be on your cap table. Some investor wants to be more engaged than others, and if the relationship is not great, then it will be a burden for you and the investor. So don't rush. Do your due diligence on the investors.
And if you refer to cap table, actually here, well, I can probably speak hours, so I will give only one advice. Make sure that when your investors, the smaller ones, they reach a threshold, so they are below a threshold, you can take them into pooling vehicle, okay? Everyone is pulled into trustee or whatever, because otherwise your cap table will be messy, and VCs, they are very sensitive for that. Also, you don't want to report every time you report to 30 people that are getting you into your phone.
Right. Well, Odin, this is interesting. I kind of want to segue a little bit into kind of what you just what all of you were kind of touching on a little bit is mistakes made, right? I mean, clearly all of you have great advice. Many of it has probably come from mistakes that you've made, you either, unintentionally or sometimes intentionally. But is there anything that you can share about what are some of the common, just one or two mistakes that you've made that have taught you a real lesson?
Yes, well, the most painful one, and you know that unfortunately we started the journey 3 people that we were friends, we were good friends. We are now 2. Because of who we are still friends with the third one, who is a great person, by the way. But when we raised the bigger buck, it was not a fit, and unfortunately, we had to cash him out. Now that's a very painful. Even if there is reverse vesting that protects the company, this is still a very painful burden on the company. What I do suggest is that first, even if you're establishing now a new company and you are 4 people, don't go and say, oh, we are 4, so 25% each. No, there is the thing that is called contribution or relative contribution, and you should see who is doing what, who is getting what, and also mechanism to protect your investors, because eventually at the end of the day, I have family here I have responsibility for the family, but I also have responsibility for my partner's family and for my investor's family. And this is how we should look at it, in a very serious way. And we should always structure or put in place a way out for founders that they don't want to be founders anymore, or maybe they want to be founders, but they don't do what the company needs. So that's the first one. The second thing is that sometimes there is founder, not in Wasteless, but Wasteless is pretty much magnetic, right? So employees, everyone is, it's like a magnet because of the sustainable angle, okay? Not because of me, because of the sustainable angle. What I'm trying to say that if you get a founder to your business and the founder, she or he, they didn't like it at first, but you pull them on board and yeah, they are okay. They don't really like it, but it will be fine during time. No, in retail, there is a saying in apparel, actually, if you don't like it in the store, you will never wear it. Okay, so just don't buy it and don't buy into it. Don't do it. Don't take this guy or lady, and this is it. And the last mistake that I think initially we we had seen, okay, is you need to listen very well to your clients, okay. Everyone is saying that, and we said that as well, but we didn't. Okay, so we started with with a monster system with hardware. Clients, they didn't want it. We had to drop the hardware piece in full. Okay, and so we pivoted to a software-based, pure 100% software company, AI, and then we realized after 1.5 years into the journey that we built a Ferrari, but we took this Ferrari to a place with no roads, which is also problematic because you need Land Rover year 1995, which is great, by the way. And then we pivoted again, but luckily we had COVID. With COVID, we were able to fire people. We were able to, to go back to the whiteboard, to do more sketches, more schematics, and say, okay, how can we get the IT out of the room? How can we get through this consensus cell? How can we make things simpler, slimmer? How can we build the system as building blocks? So you have a slim solution and then some building blocks. So you learn and you learn, listen to your client, seriously. It is actually more important than having a very good co-founder. Okay.
Awesome. Well said. And yes, somebody commented that said like he just said, luckily we had COVID, but I always say that some of the best innovations and inspirations, unfortunately, come out of situations like that. War, disease, famine, like that is when entrepreneurs strive the most. So,
less people on the planet, very
yeah.
sustainable. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so there is some truth to that. By the way, I'm gonna Nathan and Stefani, I want to hear your answer to this question about mistakes. But if anybody else has a question, we'll go live for a little bit. So just you'll have a chance in a second. But Nathan, maybe very quickly, you can talk about maybe 1 or 2 mistakes you've learned.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Oded, again, it's really exciting for me to hear other entrepreneurs because again, we all think we're so different, but it's funny how similar our stories are. So from what Oded said, I mean, I completely agree. The biggest mistakes are always around people, right? And I'm a psychologist, and even I'm saying that people are the biggest problem because on the one hand you need them, but on the other hand, exactly like Oded said, if someone's not really into it and then you convince them and then they lose, excitement for it, or even if they are excited, I won't share any personal details, but like we had situations where people joined our company saying, yeah, we're all in this. And then 2 months later, they're like, I need a salary that's far beyond what we can pay. But I said, but I thought you were joining on the board. People are funny, right? And whether or not you're an entrepreneur, a doctor, a lawyer, whatever you do, right? People, and anytime you have to interact with people, there's one thing that's certain, and that is entropy. And it's a tough thing because on the one hand, you really need people, but on the other hand, people are very, very difficult. And this goes beyond just HR, right? And so for me, that was the biggest lesson, was learning how to treat people, but also how to establish a standard for how people need to treat us or treat me, right? Or treat our company. Because like, for example, when you're, for me, I'm just a simple guy from New York, right? But like suddenly I find myself as a CEO and people are looking up to me. And when somebody is not on that team, it doesn't just damage me, it damages the company and it damages morale and it damages all the people around you. And so I think people is definitely one of the biggest challenges, and no matter what you do. And so having an intelligent view as to what people you want on your team, why you want them, what they're doing. Again, even if all you are is just conscious of that, right? And I know it sounds like common sense, but believe me, when you finally win that first customer and you're like, you have that holy shit moment and you're like, oh my God, I need this programmer right now, right? It's really easy to just hire because you need people, right? That happens. Or sometimes you need to fire, whatever reason, whatever happens. At the end of the day, you always have to be thoughtful and strategic about people, because people can be your greatest asset and also your greatest harm. The other piece of advice I would give, and again, Oded, I think, said it perfectly, I'll just say it slightly differently, is keep it really simple. Keep it really simple. Okay. So
Kiss.
a guy like me, right? I didn't know how to program. I didn't know anything. And so I always had a chip on my shoulder, right? Every time I went in front of a client, I was like, oh, my product doesn't look good enough. This doesn't look right enough. And I ended up, as Oded said, building this monster. I built this product that did 80 different things. And in the end, the reality was, it was like the simplest aspect of the product that has gotten people crazy. In our case, it's a universal work API where you can visualize work, very quickly. And I'm talking about visualizing work that people couldn't see, like how do I staff a nursing department, right? That's a lot of work. There's a lot of stuff that happens. There's spreadsheets, but like, what does that really mean to staff a nursing department? Right. And just by visualizing that, hospitals are going, whoa, holy cow. You mean this is what happens? This is that, right? And so I think Oded is right? It's okay to be aspirational. It's okay to think big and dream big. But in my view, the most important thing is to listen, as Oded said, and ensure that you're acting on the listening. And for me, acting on the listening was looking at my product, looking at my dream and saying, okay, this is what my client is telling me. This might be what I want to do, but why don't I just focus right here? And that change in philosophy, I mean, like I said, for us, we're experiencing, thank God, now like explosive growth, but it took a long time to get there. And it was that tweak that really changed it. I used to walk into rooms and be like, I've invented this cybernet, and it wasn't that I was trying to be boastful. It was more like I was just trying to say, this is what we have and this is how it's going to help you. And so often, and they looked at me like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? Now, when I walk in and say, hey, are you involved with technology and people? Yeah. Isn't that hard? Yeah. Well, hey, we have a product that does this. All of a sudden, it just opens up. So again, same message.
It takes time.
People are people. It takes time, but people are people.
It takes time.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to adjust.
Awesome.
Yeah, the message permeates, I think. And when we started markdown optimization to reduce food waste, what this guy is talking about. And now I see bids of very large firms. I'm not saying the names. I don't want to get sued. My lawyer is here. Okay. And we see bid, and inside the bid, you see, we are seeking for a wasteless alike system. That's absurd, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's but that means you got somewhere. You're getting somewhere for sure, Oded, right?
Yeah, well, I count the money in the bank, but I do want to tell you something. Very soon, probably next week or the week after, you will have a press release and you will see there that a retailer reduced this year, June to June, 2.2 million pounds of meat, prevented meat waste, 2.2 million pounds, okay? They will publish it, not wasteless, okay? So with that, I'm saying that, yes, we got to something. Yes, we are saving a lot of animals. We can still barbecue, okay, for now, not forever. And as food waste becomes 8% of global warming, I think we contributed our part.
Yeah, that's great. That's good to know. Again, good problems to have. Stefania, mistakes you've made or learned from.
So many.
Pick one.
Probably the amazing things of being an entrepreneur is that you literally wake up every day feeling free of making mistakes as long as you know how to learn from them. But at big level, I will say I bootstrapped in the beginning and I didn't pay myself a salary for years. So, and that really stressed me out in so many ways in my personal life. And I realized that it's not okay. So my recommendation to every funder is, even if you invest your own money into the company, find a way to get yourself a salary. That's absolutely key. A second thing that I have done wrong a couple of times, I needed so much specific technical skills that I hired people that I felt instinctively that would have never been a good fit for the company. And indeed, they were not a good fit. Not professionally speaking, but culturally speaking. When you start a company, you don't start just a group of people that work for a technical solution. You start a company building a new level of team culture, and that is key. And you cannot mismatch a team, like you cannot hire somebody who is a mismatch with the team culture that you have built. Don't make that mistake. I made that mistake because I needed technical skills. But technical skills people can learn, can improve. You might need a little more time, or you just need to do another round of interview. But building a culture and being honest about the culture that you want to continue to pursue, and so the people that you will have to hire will need to fit into that culture, is absolutely key. Otherwise, just like Nathan has shared, people will kill you. Me as a founder will kill the morale on the team. You will just feel that you are not on the same level, and it's key for a small team.
Yeah, I love that. All of you, well said. Thank you for that advice. Anybody want to ask a question of the panel? If you do, uh, just take yourself off mute and hopefully and put yourself on camera. Uh, this is your opportunity. If not, don't worry about it. I think so. Just let me know, or actually kind of raise your hand. That's probably better because then it puts you to the top of the screen.
Would
If
you
there's
ask a question? Yeah,
yeah, who's that? Who's asking?
Leo.
Okay, go
Leo.
for it, Leo, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much for all the information. Very, very interesting. My question is regarding funding rounds. I mean, when do you suggest is the right time? I mean, let's say I have an idea, I'm working on it, and now I need to decide, okay, or I bring a technical co-founder that will, it will take some, say, percentage of the company, and we will go together, or should I look for founders, for investors, raise some money, and then I will have the money, for the technical people. What do you suggest? What is the best approach, if ever?
Yeah, chicken or the egg for sure. Stefania, you want to take a crack at this?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I was an investor before, and I believe that the only person who made money on a PowerPoint was Bill Gates. So you should definitely try to get something before asking for money. It can be a basic MVP, it can be a list of prospect. I don't know. It depends on the product. So I would say try to get a co-founder, try to get interns from schools, PhD students, try to develop something, get some beta testers, and then go after angel money.
I agree.
I
By
have,
the way,
I have another thought. I have another thought. I agree, but partially. So regarding Bill Gates' funny remark, and probably correct. And okay, so I am not a venture capitalist, although one day I will be. Maybe I will move to the dark side. Okay, so what I would like to say is that investors generally, they invest in three things and three things only. Okay, first, they buy the team. They invest in you. They invest in the founder and the co-founder, and maybe two co-founders. Okay, so if it is only you, only you. Usually, if I am venture capitalist, and Stefania can say probably more, and maybe she will have a different thought. But if I am investor and I see single founder, okay, the track record should be insane. Otherwise, I won't invest. So again, 90% of my decision to invest or not will be the team, okay? And the team, meaning the team, okay? Depending on the stage, because sometimes the team includes also board of directors and such. Okay, so that's first. Second, they invest in product, okay? And product, product. And third, they invest in, so there is team, product, and market. Okay, so market size. If you have amazing technology but there is no market, okay, no use. If you have market but your technology is lame, you won't get the money. Okay, so so the combination should be the three of them, with, in my opinion and according to what I know, focus on team. And again, if I am an investor and I invest in a great team, and the team just realized that the technology, so not very good, they can change the technology, they can fix the technology, they can do whatever. If the market fit is broken, they can switch to other market. But the team should be very creative and very, unite team.
But I think we didn't really have different position. You reinforced what I was saying. An idea itself is not enough. Get a team, start doing some work, and then go after money.
Yeah. No, but he referred to co-founder. He referred to co-founder. And if Leo, if we got, maybe I didn't get the question right, but if I got the question right, you ask, if should I bring now co-founder and go and raise money, or should I raise money, take the money and right, buy the technology? So the answer is, don't buy the technology. Bring a strong partner with you, because the investor buys you too, or the three of you, or the four of you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Leo. Any follow up, or you're good?
No. Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome. Anybody else have a question? Just put your hand up. If you have a question, just put your hand up. Otherwise, we are at time for sure. So I just want to just give Stefania and Oded and Nathan just some final words, maybe, of advice to folks. You've given some great advice over the last hour and a half, and you've said some amazing things, but just final words from all of you. How can people get in touch with you if you can? If you can share how people can kind of find out about your company. This will be recorded and played, and there'll be all sorts of people watching it, including investors. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about that as well. So Stefania can go first.
It was a pleasure speaking here today. If I can be of help, if I can avoid that you guys make mistakes that I have made, super, super happy to get in touch. I share my LinkedIn. I'm not super responsive on LinkedIn because I get so many messages from random people, but do just shoot me a note how we met, so that I will definitely respond back to you. Never get discouraged, really. Be sad, cry, pivot, find people you can brainstorm with, but just don't get discouraged. Because if you are passionate, if you have an idea, if you want to solve a problem, you will find your way. And I really wish the best success to all of you. And do patent your product.
Awesome. Stefania. Good parting words. Oded.
Yes, so if I can help anyone, just I put my I sent it to you, maybe, David. You can just approach me via my email. Don't use LinkedIn. Final note on my side: as entrepreneur, I have only one dream left, seriously, and that's to delete this account forever. I hate social networks, okay? And I'm not responsive there. although I have large network. If you want me, just use this mobile, call me. David can share the contact, and if you have a tough question, you will get tough answers. That's for sure.
Exactly. I put your email
Okay.
in the chat. Thank you, Oded. Nathan.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to echo the comments here, thank you for the opportunity. Really a pleasure to meet everybody. And if this sounds like a very friendly and very warm and encouraging environment, that's because what you actually find is that it is, right? When you start up a business and you start wading into venture capital and you start wading into fundraising and all this stuff, it is an extremely harsh, it is long, it is a lot of work, yada, yada, yada. But one thing it is also is very friendly. And, it's funny, when I started my career, I didn't know what I was doing or where to go. And one of my bosses gave me some of the best advice I had received. And she said to me, just reach out and ask people to tell you about themselves. Everybody loves talking about themselves. And in this community, that is true in spades, right? So, Leo, whether it's your question and you're just unsure, every situation is different, or anybody else here, the best thing you can do is just talk to people, right? Words are cheap, right? And that goes both ways, but they can also be extremely valuable. Don't be afraid to reach out to people because people are super friendly. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid. And you know what? What's the worst that happens? Someone says no or someone ghosts you. Big deal. There's a billion people that you can reach out to, right? And to me, that's the most important thing. Don't be afraid to ask and don't be afraid to talk. If I can be helpful to anybody, best way to reach me is on LinkedIn. I do check it. I also have my own podcast. I write my own books, and usually the way I communicate with my audience is through LinkedIn or Facebook or one of the other social channels. So feel free to just reach out to me there, and I'm usually pretty responsive. You can learn more about the technology and my story if you're interested. I don't think many people are, but if you're interested, you can find my books on Amazon. And if you are interested in learning more about Transformation Insights and about KTA, the first transformation management platform, we actually have, I think, 10 use cases now that are being introduced, and they cover everything from the healthcare example to working with cancer drug manufacturers. We have a product called Clinical Trials Out of the Box, which is coming out. To big data products where we can use our custom ontology and use Razi to speak to data sets so that you can actually take that data and do something powerful with it. So there's a lot of stuff that's coming out from us in the next couple of weeks. And so definitely check us out online, transformationinsights.io. Reach out to us on LinkedIn, reach out to me, and to be frank, reach out to anyone on the team. There's one thing that you can tell we're not short of, and that is words. We're always happy to talk. So feel free to reach out and let us know how we can help.
Awesome. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Oded. Thank you, Stefania. You're all amazing, and we're all rooting for you for continued success. And thank you for taking the time. Coincidentally,
Thank you.
You're welcome. Coincidentally, our next CSS is July 25th, and it's a panel of investors. Believe it or not, after all this conversation we have an angel, we have a VC, and we have someone from private equity. And so look out for that. Please come and attend. And again, thank you to the panel. Everybody have a great July 4th if you're in the States. And thank you for attending. Talk to you all later. Have a good evening or good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Everyone.
Bye.